All right, everybody, welcome back to part two of academic inclusion. So one of the things I want to make sure that you're aware of is that most students who are fully included in their general education classroom actually receive instruction and services across the cascade of instructional options. They can actually receive services across all of the levels. So they may have some unadapted and adapted participation. They may have embedded IEP goals within the Gen Ed curriculum or the Gen Ed activities. They're learning functional skills, social skills, they're receiving therapy, and those could either be where someone is pushing into the general education classroom, or they may be pulled out. They may leave the general education classroom and go to a separate setting in order to receive their reading instruction, and then they go right back. Or it may be that the speech and language pathologist pushes into the general education classroom to provide therapy, but they also pull them out and do some work in their office, for example. So what we're going to do now, and you can either make a chart like this if you want, or you can just label them questions 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what we're going to do now is we are going to watch some videos of students in different levels of the cascade of instruction, and I want you to determine from watching the video where the student is. Are they doing the same activity, the same objective, the same setting, or is there some difference or similarity in there? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the video, and then I will come back to this slide, and I'm going to stop. I encourage you to stop on this slide so that you can see your different options in order to answer. And again, these will count as questions that go on your document. So let's go ahead and start with question number 2, our first video. All right, so what level of the cascade of instruction do you think this student is? And this is our student right here before we get started. All right, here we go.
He did not have the electricity. So what happened? How did he solve that problem? So if the TV doesn't work, okay. So the TV does not work. So how did he solve it though? You told us those are reasons why, yes. And that's why they have no power. So how did he solve it?
All right, so let's go back. And where do you feel that student was on the cascade of instruction? Go ahead and stop your video, write down as far as the activities, the objective, and the setting, and then come on back. All right, now that you're back, we're going to look at question number 3, which will be the next video. Where do you think this student is in the cascade of instruction? These are our two students right here, these students, okay? So let's watch them. And we're not going to watch the whole video. We'll watch maybe a minute of it.
Find where an adventure happened in the text. So if you've got one in your head, go find it. Where did it happen? Ooh, red shot was already written down. I got that down it. I think red shot was. I got one. You got one? Ooh, hold that in your head. There are so many adventures. Like every page is a new adventure. Every page. No. Remember you look at you showed at least your adventure? Well, every one that one. So that's not what I'm talking about.
All right, we'll stop there. Hopefully you saw enough for you to determine where are these students on the cascade. That was question number 3. Go ahead and stop your video and then come back. All right, now we're going to move to question 4, our next video. Where is this student?
Well, there's some opposite here. I first used to study. Now what's going on? And the word is scarce. Insufficient to satisfy the need or demand.
All right, where do you feel that student was on the cascade? Stop your video and then come back. All right, and now our final video for question number 5. Again, looking at what level in the cascade these students are.
All right, guys. In chapter 7, we read about Peter, Fudge, Alex, excuse me, putting on the costume and going trick or treating. Angel, going trick or treating. Today, we're going to read chapter 8. It's super fun. In chapter 8, we're going to read about Jimmy coming to visit Peter and his friends and going to the movie. In chapter 8, Jimmy comes to visit his friends and go to the theater to see a movie. Have you guys ever been to movies?
Yeah.
All right. So that's what's going to happen in chapter 8. His friends they're going to go to the movie. Let's go over our vocabulary words real quick, okay? I want everybody to read it together. Angel. Everybody to read together. Agree.
All right, we'll stop there. Where are those students on the cascade of instructional options? Stop your video and come back. All right, so we'll go over those in class. The next thing that we're going to talk about are the quality indicators of inclusive schools for students with disabilities. That's what that is. So these are exactly what they sound like. They are indicators of quality inclusive schools. And so as I go over these, what I encourage you to do is to reflect on your own school, either the school that you currently work in or doing a practicum in, a school you attended. I know a lot of you were peer tutors during your school, so you may want to look at the school you attended, even if you didn't have that program, or just a school that you're familiar with, and see what quality indicators does the school you're thinking about have? Which ones would you say, yeah, that's a quality indicator of the school that I'm teaching in? All right, so one of the quality indicators is that students with disabilities are members of age-appropriate general education classrooms, and those classrooms are found in their neighborhood schools. They're not bused away to a school because that's where the program is. They are housed in their gen ed school with their same age non-disabled peers. But not only are they members of those schools, those neighborhood schools, but they are participating in inclusive academics. They participate in inclusive socialization and extracurricular activities. So again, they are members of age-appropriate general education classroom in their neighborhood schools, and they participate in inclusive academic, social, and extracurricular activities. And that extracurricular activities is really important, right? Think about when you were in school and all the extracurricular activities you participated in and how that added to the quality of your life. Not only that, quality inclusive schools presume competence, that students with disabilities are competent to communicate about the content. They can go into a classroom, they can learn content, and they can tell you about it, or they can share or engage in a conversation or a debate about it. Quality inclusive schools provide AAC systems for students with complex support needs. They also provide supplementary aids and services. So if you need a stander, if you need services of an occupational therapy, if you need specialized seating, we're going to provide all those. That's what quality inclusive schools do. Not only that, they teach students with disabilities self-advocacy and self-determination skills. Think how important those are. And in quality inclusive schools recognize that. They provide intentional facilitation of social relationships. So you think about being in school, I can speak for myself. Those social relationships, even to this day, are still very important to me. I have lifelong friends that I had while I was in school. And quality inclusive schools not only recognize the importance of social relationships, friendships, but it also facilitates those very intentionally. And then finally, they involve students with disabilities in making choices and in making decisions. So again, these are 7 quality indicators of quality inclusive schools for students with disabilities. Now, if we are going to have a successful quality inclusion, we have to make sure that we're planning for that inclusion and that that planning is collaborative. And this is essential to the success. I'm going to tell you, you cannot pick up a student and put them in an inclusive setting and expect them to flourish. You have to plan for it. You have to prepare for it. You have to have everybody on board. And so you want to make sure that you're doing that collaborative planning, that you have the special ed teacher, the general ed teacher, and any other team members that are required. That could be a speech and language pathologist. You might have literacy or math coaches in your school or school district, occupational therapy, or it could be someone like a PE or a music teacher, or even like playground, if you have like playground monitors, they may, depending on where you are as far as confidentiality and what kind of support is being provided, but those types of people may need to be part of our collaborative planning if they are providing services in those inclusive setting or they're assisting us in planning for that inclusion. And so one of the ways you're going to do that, the most important way, is you're going to develop what is called a participation plan. And that is exactly what it sounds like. So when you are developing a participation plan, again, with the support of those team members, you're going to look at things like identifying the student, identifying their IEP goals, especially the ones you're going to be working on in that inclusive setting, and then whatever the IEP team has identified as priority skills, whatever skills you want that student to demonstrate, to learn, to be assessed on in that inclusive setting, we have to plan for that and include it in our participation plan. You already know you need to do an ecological inventory. You need to find out what are the routines, what are the different sub areas of that classroom. What happens in those areas? What types of skills do the students need to be successful in that setting? And then you're going to develop task analysis to directly address those skills and those needs. But there are going to be some skills that go beyond, that are not IEP goals or objectives, that are not the prioritized skills that have been identified by the IEP team that you still need to teach. And that is called the hidden curriculum. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a video on the hidden curriculum and then I'll give you a couple of examples. All right, here we go. This is an expert in the area of the hidden curriculum.
The hidden curriculum is the set of unwritten rules, assumptions, and expectations, that is, that everyone knows without being taught. And everyone means everyone but people with autism who have difficult learning implicitly. And the hidden curriculum can impact you throughout your lifetime. A hidden curriculum item at elementary school might be, for example, if someone bumps into you in the hallway, it's probably an accident. If someone says to you, "What's up?" it probably means hello. If the teacher is frowning and his arms are crossed and he is tapping his foot, he probably is giving something called the teacher look, and that means that he wants you to be quiet and pay attention. As our individuals get older, they may have hidden curriculum challenges regarding establishing romantic relationships. Because as we know, there are several unwritten rules that have to do with establishing relationships. Yes may not mean yes, no may not mean no, and who knows what maybe means. In adulthood, the hidden curriculum is extremely important. You have to understand things such as if your boss asks you to do something, it really is not a request, it is an order. The hidden curriculum is, as I said earlier, so broad, and we have to begin teaching it when children are young and continue throughout their lifetime. Children who are neurotypical pick up a lot of information from the environment. They are able to learn implicitly. Individuals with autism, however, who are wired a little bit differently, have challenges in picking up information that is implicitly learned. And three areas that are implicitly learned by most people are social, communication, and daily living skills. These skills are generally not taught. And because of the neurology of autism, this is where our students have challenges.
So some examples, I also want to say, let me stop this. She said that sometimes yes means yes and no means no, and who knows what maybe is. We're not going by that. No always means no. No always means no until someone tells you otherwise. And so we don't want to tell our students that sometimes no might mean something else. No always means no. But when we're talking about the hidden curriculum, it's things like if you get close to someone or you're touching someone and they pull away, that means they don't like whatever you're doing and you need to stop. I don't ever recall anyone teaching me that. I learned that incidentally, or I learned it through observation. That's what she means by implicitly. No one ever directly taught me that, but I learned it by just being and being around people. Another one I was thinking about when I was in my doc program, I used the university transportation a lot. And if I ever got on a bus and there was only one other person on that bus, I did not go and sit on the seat in the seat right beside them, because somehow from observation, I guess, or incidental learning, I learned that you don't just go and sit beside somebody if there's only one person on the bus. You find your own space. They have their space, you have your space. However, some of our individuals with intellectual disability or autism may not know that unless we directly teach them that. They may think, I've been taught to interact with people, I've been working on social skills like my whole life. What I should do is go sit by that person and start a conversation. And that's not what we would do. For example, another example, somebody's got their earbuds in, you don't talk to them. Earbuds in is an indication I'm doing something right now. I'm not in a place to engage in conversation. So what you need to do is to go into the general education classroom and explicitly, very intentionally look for that hidden curriculum, because there are things that you will need to directly teach because our students may not pick up on it. You do not, if you are borrowing someone's crayons and they're sharing with you, you don't walk out the door with them. They didn't give it to you. They are sharing with you. So again, those are things, there's so many of them, and you don't think anything about it because you just happen to know it. I just know it. Well, somehow you learned it, but our students need to be explicitly taught those things. And so when you're writing those participation plans, you also want to look for not only that hidden curriculum, but ways that you can embed IEP goals and prioritize skills throughout whatever that routine is. So what is the schedule like? Oh, you know what? We're getting ready to go to lunch. We're going to wash our hands. I am going to distribute this IEP goal, counting to 10, for example. I am going to embed it in the natural opportunity of washing hands. And we're going to lather and wash our hands while we rote count to 10, because that is one of your IEP goals. We're going to work on that. Or there may be times when there are not naturally occurring opportunities, or there aren't enough naturally occurring opportunities. So you're going to set up supplemental opportunities. I have been working with you. One of our prioritized skills is that you request items and that you use full sentences when you are requesting, manding. And so what you would do in that case is that I may set up an activity and you need a glue stick, but I'm not going to give you a glue stick because I'm creating that supplemental opportunity for you to request a glue stick using a full sentence. And so I'm looking across the routine and seeing where can I distribute those goals. I can do this math goal here, and I can do it here, and I can do this reading goal here, and here's an opportunity for us to work on the fine motor skills that our occupational therapist has identified. And if I cannot find naturally occurring opportunities or enough naturally occurring opportunities, because maybe you only need one, you have one opportunity and the student needs 4 throughout a day, I'm going to create those supplemental opportunities. Not only that, when you're thinking about participation, you need to identify supports and adaptations. Not only the individualized support that the student needs, obviously we want to do that, but what kind of universal supports can we put in place? That's where universal design for learning comes from. How can we create these multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression, multiple means of engagement, so that all students are able to participate and be supported? However, there are going to be some for our students that are individualized. And then finally, this is part of education and special education specifically, is that we are going to evaluate our student. We're going to always be progress monitoring, and not only progress monitoring to identify whether or not the student is making progress, but also to evaluate the effectiveness of our instruction and determine if we continue instruction as is or if we need to make some type of modification. All right, that is it for participation plans. Where are you? Are you feeling great about it? I'm okay. I'm completely lost. Make sure that you let me know if you have any questions because I am here and happy to support you. All right, I'll see you in the next video.